Red light's on. Call the meeting to order.
Seth Baylog,
Here.
Sean Lucas,
Here.
Jared Giddens,
Here.
Aaron Peterson,
Here.
Darlene Graham,
Here.
Matt Ogden.
Here.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item to note for your website, Drew. Today's meeting's already moved into the past meetings section. Okay. All right. Are you ready? Did you eat? Are you good? All right. Go to it.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. If you don't mind, I'll be presenting from down here, so I have my computer readily available. But tonight, the purpose of the meeting is to go through the 2023 operating and capital budget, and for you to have the opportunity to make some decisions and give us direction on which way you would like us to go on some things. And so, City Administrator Lyles and I have been working on this, as well as the rest of the staff, to put this together. So we'll go through, just stop me and ask questions, anything you have comment or question on, and staff is here to answer any of the questions that you might have. So with that, we'll get started. These are really low. Okay, so first of all, the goals, we have a couple of goals in mind when you're looking at the budget. We are statutorily mandated to have a structurally balanced budget, which means our beginning balances plus our budgeted revenues less our budgeted expenses must be in the positive. We can't have a negative budget, so that's our first goal. And you have a budget dashboard in front of you. That very last column, those bottom lines, that should be in the positive, so that's what we're looking for. Additionally, the mayor has taught us over the last few years that we need to have our operations as a percentage of revenue less than 100%. So that far column there, that number needs to be under 100%. So those are the two kind of goals we're looking at when we look at this budget. The categories we're going to go over for each fund are revenues, personnel, operations, capital, debt, transfers out, and reserve balances. So those are the kind of areas we're going to focus on this evening. So revenues in the general fund. If you're looking at your budget dashboard, this is the top grouping in the blue. So all of the departments within the general fund. So if you'll note in tax revenue, so for sales tax, we have budgeted an increase of just 2% over the 2022 budget. So we're budgeting $3,626,741. That's just an increase of $71,000 in sales tax. Our sales tax this year has been pretty flat, so we feel comfortable that 2% is probably a pretty safe bet. The use tax, we have budgeted an increase of 25% over the 2022 budget, from $655,044 to $818,805. That's an increase of $163,761. Again, use taxes continued to grow over the years, so we feel like this is a pretty conservative figure. And just wanted to point out the transfers into the general fund includes $759,384 in ARPA funds to continue funding the website and ERP projects. My button. Overall, the revenues are really remaining flat. Our 2022 revenues, we budgeted at $12,736,107, and our 2023 revenues are just $109,000 more. So revenues are remaining fairly flat, which is going to be important to note when we start talking about expenses. Oh, okay. This is good then? Okay, good, because it's hurting my back. Personnel. So personnel in the general fund, you can see the different departments listed out there. But we have budgeted a cost of living adjustment at 8.7%. This is what Social Security's cost of living adjustment is going to be. And in looking at the CPI for the Midwest, it's very similar. So we are recommending a cost of living adjustment of 8.7%. We've not included a merit raise in this budget. There's that can be a decision that you make if you would like to include one, but we wanted to leave enough room for you all to make decisions about what you wanted to include because we can't afford it all. So there's some wiggle room here for you to make some decisions about as far as that goes. We did not have a merit increase this year because we absorbed the employees' contribution to loggers. So that was kind of an offset. But going forward, no merit can kind of get you in a tricky situation. So this is just something to think about. There are 6 personnel requests made that we are not able to fund, as well as a staff restructuring in the police department. If you have questions about that, Chief can probably fill you in on that. I'm not real sure exactly the plan there, but we aren't able to fund that with this budget right now. The personnel requests that are not able to be funded were 4 police officers, an administrative assistant in parks, and a graphic designer. Those were all requested by staff. In 2022, the personnel budget was $8,103,261, and this year it's increased by $742,000. Again, largely due to the large COLA. Any questions before we move on to the next thing?
So if council, still working on the mics here, right? Okay. So if the council did decide to include merit for the general fund, it would be, what, about 88,000 per percentage or something? Or it wouldn't be that much, right? Because it's just for salary.
It would depend on, it would vary, whatever percentage you would come up with. I can run a scenario and tell you what the actual dollar amount would be. So we can play around with that if you'd like.
If you did a 3% merit, as we've done in the past, it would be, approximately a little over $100,000.
$100,000.
Yeah, give or take. We can get that exact number, but it'll be right at 100,000.
Okay, operational expense in the general fund. We're increasing the operational budget by 3.69% or $101,000. If you had questions about individual operational budgets, staff's on hand to answer any of that. Capital. In the general fund in the administration department, we have several projects that have been requested and not funded in this budget. And again, these are some decisions that you can make. There was a sign on North 160 for $200,000. That's not in this budget. Some LED lighting upgrades for $26,000. A digital signboard for $12,000. This would be where we would post agendas and stuff digitally instead of outside with a thumbtack and a piece of paper. There are some capital projects that are requested, and we have put them in and funded them by using savings account money or transfers in. The downtown design project at $80,000, wayfinding signs at $40,000, and we are proposing to use the economic development savings account to fund these 2 projects.
Can you go back to that? Go back to that one, Drew. So those are budgeted for this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's correct.
Were we doing them as economic development projects this year as well?
They were not coming out of economic development savings this year. We were going to plan on taking them out of the general fund, but my recommendation is if we have told the public we're going to do both of those, so I would like to try to continue to finish both those projects. But I would recommend, because of where our revenues are this year and our ending balance concerns, I would recommend that we utilize the economic development savings if we do those this year. But again, that'll be a decision for council.
The ERP system, again, and the website and app, those were in this year's budget, where it's an ongoing project and was budgeted out of ARPA funds, and we continue to suggest that that's the way we go with that. So for the general fund, the total capital budget is $879,384. In the administration department, not the general fund, sorry. In the police department, a requested project not funded is the range building. The shooting range is about ready to go, right? It's been designed and everything, and now they need a building to go out there. So that's been requested, not in the budget. A requested project that we suggest using a transfer is for the command post upfit. We have a command post that's not fit, it's not got all the stuff in it. So we are suggesting using impact fees for that. So the total capital budget for the police department is $80,000. In the parks department, requested projects not funded, the Christmas light display, Rotary Park Pavilion, Dog Park Salt Dome, Rotary Park lights and security. So all of those projects were requested that are not in this budget. And then we have a couple that are requested that are going to be funded by savings. We've got the aquatics reserve, so we have a bucket tower replacement, pool painting, aquatics music system, aquatics pump house upgrades. All of those will be used with aquatics reserves. And then the Macaulay Park Trail Extension is a $60,000 project that we will use impact fees for. So, and we got one project that is requested and funded by budgeted revenues, and that's the parks truck. So the total capital budget for parks is $314,000. Planning and development, requested but not funded, is a new comprehensive plan. We really need a new comprehensive plan, an updated one. The one we have is how old? Over 10 years old? So we really need a new comprehensive plan. Total capital budget for planning and development is $0. In stormwater, we have the ongoing Cherry Street project, but we have not funded it, $650,000. So the total capital budget for stormwater is $0. So for the total capital budget for general fund, $1,273,384. Okay, at this point, we can talk about general fund, or we can go on with the rest, or it's up to you all how you would like to do this.
So I do want to discuss the comprehensive plan. This is just my opinion, and I have received phone calls from people asking what and if, Nixa, Christian County, and I deal, obviously with my job, I deal with multiple counties, but they want to know that there is one in place. So we're in the process of doing the hotel study and all that. I feel like having that study and not having an updated comprehensive plan is almost pointless. It does not put us in a good position to be able to attract new business. So I do think that having a comprehensive, and not to mention, the planning and zoning commissioners their job is based off of the comprehensive plan. Them following the comprehensive plan is what can, from a legal standpoint, can keep them out of trouble when making decisions. And using one that's 10 years old, I mean, it's completely outdated. I just don't feel like is a good move.
Well, and let me give just a little bit of background on our current situation with the comprehensive plan. We have, before the pandemic, we did contract with SimCog and to help us do a comprehensive plan. During that process, of course, COVID hit. That presented some issues, so we had to put things on hold.
We're also waiting on the
And-
census as well, right?
Yes,
Yep.
and also they had some turnover within SimCog as well that postponed that plan also. So right now, we've been waiting to fill the Planning Development Director's position to move forward with the comp plan. I agree 100%. We have to do the comp plan. If you're asking me if there's a need, that is a need, a big one. The question then becomes on who we want to assist us with that comp plan. We could move forward with SimCog and cut that cost significantly, probably closer to $15,000 or so, if I had to guess. Or we could go out to another vendor and get a comprehensive plan, which would be upwards of the $150,000. Again, that is completely a call with council and staff. Christian County is currently using SimCog for a comprehensive plan. They're not completed yet. I was hoping to see their end product so we could make a better decision on how we wanted to move forward.
Don't they have a newer person at
do.
SEMCOG that's working on that?
Yeah, they do. They have a new person, and that's the only, again, it's kind of I want to see some product come out of that to see if it's worth that partnership to continue. So that's where we're at. A lot of other communities have used outside. We've actually talked to some of them that used an outside vendor to do that and had very good success. I'm not saying SimCog would not. They're a very good organization, and we could have success with that also. I just haven't seen the finished product yet to judge that on.
I'd also like to point out, if you look in that far column on your budget dashboard in the blue, that $2,194,458, that's what you have to sort of utilize. So it just depends on how far you're comfortable taking that down and what you want to fund with that. That's the estimated ending unrestricted fund balance.
Would you engage in an RFP process to get a more comprehensive, because that 150 seems to be like the high mark, right, at this point, so it could be significantly
Yes, we would.
less.
If we were to go out for an outside vendor, we would definitely do that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's the merit, so.
We're just basing that number off the other cities, our comparable size and what they've had to spend.
99,
Yep.
something. That is a battle. It's been fought many times. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can move on to,
I'm sorry, Jennifer, before we do, if there's any questions about any of the other CIPs that are currently unfunded, if you don't mind, before we move on to further discussion in other departments, I would like to visit about those. So if there's any questions about any of the unfunded CIPs that you might have.
You don't have a sheet with you don't have a page with just all of them listed, do you?
I can go back to the slide. Those are going to be funded. Those are the parks projects.
Matt, can you explain the salt dome, please?
Well, not exactly. The dog park is where the streets department had their salt dome. And so we're utilizing it as a pavilion at the moment. But the idea was, and the main plan there was to eventually get that salt dome moved over for Public Works' and street department's use, and just create a more pavilion-like structure at the dog park. We bid that this year. That was one of those that we had in the bid. We had a budget of, I think, 40 or 45,000, if I'm not mistaken. But in that bid, to get someone to recreate that and move that salt dome, it was 89,000 and change roughly to do that project. And so it just far exceeded the bid. So that's where that number comes in and what that is.
So that's moving the existing salt dome somewhere else and building you a pavilion.
Yep,
Maybe we should call it Dog Park Pavilion instead of.
correct. So it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, right?
How much does it cost to, that's not on, sorry. How much does it cost to just move the salt dome? I'm sure that probably wasn't part of that.
I mean, it was 77, I think it was. Yeah, it's close to the 80 mark.
Well, that's a bad idea all the way around.
Far greater than we ever thought it would be.
These are all on page. Yeah, they just emptied it out of salt. And then
What do you think? Except for salt.
True. Have dog poop in our salt.
Can I ask what's included in the Rotary Park lights and security upgrade? What
Yeah,
would that entail?
we are currently at Rotary, a couple of things. One, the streetlights around Rotary Park have quit. After working with the electric department some, we can't pinpoint where that is at. We worked with them and Turpin Electric to kind of help pinpoint. And somewhere in the line, there's got to be a short. The line is a small line as far as wire size goes. So we're thinking somewhere in there's a short, and needing to get some type of lighting in there that would help us with the security side of the vandalism and things that we're seeing at Rotary. And then also in that number would be the ability to put some security cameras in at Rotary Park to kind of help monitor some of those areas that we're having that are problematic at the moment.
So would these be temporary lights, or would this be something to be more permanent, or?
We were looking at more permanent. This number was more permanent lighting, either utilize.
Matt, I'm sorry, your mic's not on. There you go.
No touching. The lights, we've got a couple options. We could go with typical street lights, like we would see on any of our streets right now, or we could try to utilize our existing lights. We just need to rerun electrical and kind of bolster those. So we need to put those on concrete, kind of get them out of car paths. We've got several of them that just keep getting hit by cars. Unfortunately, we don't know who those are. And so the lights themselves are around $4,000 a piece. So incredibly expensive for the lights, those decorative lights that are there at the moment.
And so what's the split on the lights versus the cameras? Is it?
Your cameras are in the 12 to 14,000 range. We'll have to work on the internet side of things. We've got a couple of options, but none are super great. Suddenlink can run the wire and things that we would need at a cost, or we could look at someone like Total High Speed or something like that and do more of a wireless a boot that way. And so we've got a couple of options to look at, which would be most economical for us.
So it has to be somewhere and
Thank
plugged in
you.
something.
And I'll just mention that we have experienced a great deal of vandalism at the parks over the last summer, so we've been trying to figure out how to get some cameras, especially on the bathroom area.
Yeah.
It's-
Bathroom pavilions, the tennis courts, basketball court area, it has been very problematic.
Currently, all the lights, you said, are not working?
Correct.
Why don't you go back to the first capital slide. Well, a couple more.
Administration.
Okay. Probably the best way to move forward is to identify how much more additional from reserves we want to spend, and then look through this list of projects and try to figure out what fills in that amount of money. So currently, with what we have now, we're negative 1.1 million out of reserves for this year, but we still have 2.1 or 2.2 million available, so we could spend, some portion of that to do some of these projects that we think are high priority for this year, and then include those as we move forward.
Do we have an idea of what we paid extra, what over budget so far this year, as far as all the budget amendments that we've done?
It's in the $2 million range, 2.1 million, I believe. I can look that up.
Because that would be it'd be my one concern also that we should definitely think about is, the what if, what happens if another water pipe busts under a road? And, we're going to have to fix that, obviously, and that's not something that can be just put off for another year. So it's, how much do we want to leave in there versus how much do we want to?
Well, and the other point is that we do have 6.2 million that are in restricted reserves.
Yeah,
So we have,
which we can.
the entire town can blow away and we would still be fine for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So we,
Be a great 3 months.
we'd be busy. We'd be spending a lot of money in that time
Yeah.
frame, but we
Yeah.
have a lot, so.
Yeah, we
Just
had,
because, if we spent the entire 2 million in reserves, which I'm not recommending that we do.
Yeah.
But we would still have considerable reserves for emergencies afterwards. This is just the extra savings that we have.
Yeah.
That's available to use on projects, which is why people pay taxes. I had a little discussion with my daughter today about the Amendment 1 on the state where they want to invest the money because they have $3 billion in the bank and they want to invest it in other things. I'm like, well, they got that money to spend on something, they should probably spend it and not try to invest it, which is something I've kind of always pushed for. We don't need to save too much.
So to that point, is this 98.42, is that consistent year over year with where we're,
that's
that
pretty
percent of
good.
revenue
We're
value is?
usually, the mayor likes it to be a little bit lower than
Yeah,
that, but
Yeah,
We had it
96,
in
97.
when I first started, it was 101 when we first created the metric, and then we got it down to, I think, 88 at one point in time, and then it's slowly crept up with inflation over the last several years. So I think it was 99, I had it listed somewhere earlier. 99.1 last year was the budgeted amount, but we're only at 89 really. So again, that's just a budget. We always come in under budget anyway.
So if we went to 99.1, where would that put us dollar-wise? To spend, or to,
So that's only for operations, so that would only include things, so that's not any of these things.
Oh, okay.
So that would only include, like, we decided to do the merit.
Got
That-
it.
That would affect the percentage.
okay. Got it.
All of these other things are capital projects, which would just be out of our unrestricted funds.
Got it. Thank you.
And then, while we're on that slide, I'll just give some further explanation on those CIP requests from administration. There you go. I got you. Of course, the sign at North and 160 is to replace the current sign as you come in. Into Nixa, we have the sign on the west side of the roadway. It is a digital sign, but that is very outdated, and we can't really change that message. The chamber actually is in charge of that. So there's some discussion about potentially replacing that over the last few years, so that's what's in that budget. And then the LED lighting upgrades is actually for the chambers that we're in now and also out in the foyer area. In the last few years, we've actually replaced all the can lighting to LED, but these side lights are not. And as you can see, we have a few of them starting to go out. There's one in here and maybe a couple out front. So we just went ahead and quoted what it would cost to go ahead and finish changing all those out to LED. That is something that could wait, obviously, and I do have someone to come fix the lights that are out. Those will be switched to LED as they fix them in this year's budget. But that is just if we wanted to go ahead and replace all of them, which is our goal in the end, is to get all the lighting to LED. And then the digital signboard, again, is the message board out front. I don't know if you've seen that. It's where we post our agendas. It is pretty sad shape. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to stand. It's pretty rusted on the bottom and leaks water. And so the idea is to go ahead and replace that with a new digital sign that is outdoors with the new stainless steel brace and the whole works, whatever you're going to call that. So, and that would allow us to post our agendas digitally. From inside, we can make any changes that we want, and also you could post other messages on there as well. So that's what that is. And of course, we could go a cheaper route and replace just a normal board like we have. But again, I think the benefit of getting that digital is well worth it. So, and then of course the downtown design is something, and the wayfinding signs is something we wanted to do this year, but unfortunately it just didn't happen. We were waiting for branding for the wayfinding and such as that. So that will be next year. So.
Okay, any more questions on those? All right, so go to the
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
keep going, yeah.
I go through every little thing.
That's okay. It's all one big bucket, so it's easier if we think of it as one big bucket. So the range, okay, range.
And then Chief, if you'd like to give them a little more information on the range building.
So as you know, we have a ongoing construction project that is just about ready to finish up. It is the civil portion, so we had to take a phased approach to this CIP. The phase one being the actual shooting range itself, phase two being the training building. When we bid the actual construction of the range, certainly came in higher than we originally thought. With only one bid on that, but it was within the budgeted amount of money, so we did start that portion of the project. It is near completion. We have a few things to wrap up on that. And then we shifted our focus to the training building. And unfortunately, it's probably not any surprise to anybody, but costs have gone up dramatically. And so when we went to work on this particular part of the project, there was a design portion, and then there's the building itself, construction, and getting electricity to the site or the facility. And for example, our first bid for electric alone to this particular building was around $38,000. The last estimate that I got from Doug's department was $120,000. And so that shows you the kind of differences we're talking about, and that's just to get the electric to the building site. In particular, the building itself is coming in substantially higher as well. That was based on Hamby Construction's estimates for that building. And so when you put those two figures together, the actual construction of the building, the electricity, we're at $375,000. We will have some remaining budget from the original CIP line left over when we're done with the phase one. I don't have that exact number yet because we're wrapping up now, but there will be a bit of a savings that we'll be turning back from the original CIP if we don't do anything else with the training facility and or the construction of the electric to get it there.
Okay?
Can you,
oh.
sorry,
Go ahead.
but can you explain, especially for the newer members, exactly what is the purpose of the range building?
So the purpose of the range building was to provide a training classroom space that you can get out of the weather and do actual training on the things related to firearms and some of the things that we do out on the firing range. It also was going to provide the storage for all of our equipment down there, including our UTV. And then a big portion of that was to make sure that we had working restrooms at that facility to use while we're down there training. Right now, I think there's might be a porta potty still down there for our old range. And so we were trying to address some major needs with storage of equipment, having a space to get out of the rain and out of the weather to do the classroom portions of our training, and then also have a place that we could have a restroom facility. So that was the main purpose of adding the actual training building to coincide with the shooting range.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, move on to the next one, Drew.
Oh, we were, oh yeah, parks. We did parks. Do you want to do that again?
Oh, not too far now.
Huh? Too far?
I wanted the
Or you wanna go back to
unfunded
parks?
ones on the other page, yeah.
Oh,
There
that
you go,
one.
that one.
Okay.
Of these, what do you think is the most important and the second most important? Matt?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely probably lights and security for Rotary. I mean, the pavilion would be a great
I
one
guess
at Rotary
we'll
as
let
well.
Jeff include in on you because part of your thing is part of his thing too.
Yeah, I mean, that one would be big to get them use of their salt dome too.
I agree that with Matt, that the security at Rotary Park and then the pavilion would probably be better, would better serve the city for now.
Thank you, sir.
So you're not going to die if you don't get your salt dome.
Sorry?
You'll figure out someplace else to put your salt if you don't get your salt dome back.
Figure
Okay.
it out.
Okay. Good, I like that answer. Okay.
Call him sir.
So is there an option on the table to just do the lights and not the security to try to? And I guess my question on the security is where will that camera data go? And whom, I mean, is this preventative or just to be like, well, we had let's go
Sure.
back and review the tape kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. So the first answer to your question is yes, you could split those out and not do the security and just do lighting. Absolutely. It would probably have an element of security that would help just by having enough lighting or more lighting out there. The security cameras would be on our system that is current. And so it would be through NetWatch, be able to go back into our system and kick it back to us. So we'd be able to view that and have access, both at our office, PD has access to those cameras and all the cameras within the city as well. And so it would be a bit more robust in that. You could do cheaper security cameras and, you know, I'll be honest, I haven't priced those too awful heavy, but there are other options that have definitely come to the market with rings and different things like that that I guess we could certainly look at. I just don't know that those would go back into our system. They would have to go into
We've invested a lot of money in an integrated security camera system for all the buildings so that we have one spot for everything. So I think
It would
not
most
doing
be,
that
it would
is
be
probably
best.
doing ourselves a disservice in the long run.
So how many cameras does that include?
Three.
So that's 3 cameras and how many lights?
Lights was, what was that? I think it was a dozen or 15, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
So
And how-
was this replacing them with street lights or fixing the current ones and replacing broken ones?
Both are options. And so, you know, I'm visiting with the electric department a little bit. Streetlights is readily available, easy for them to change, easy for them to fix, because that's what they do every day. And so if we went that route, I know Jimmy would prefer that we stick with something more decorative and look a little bit nicer within our park. And so if we were doing that, I think we could still run the electric, use our existing lights, just need to do some more work with those. And we're down a couple of them as they were hit by cars, so we'd replace those. And so I think we could easily do that as well.
But for clarification, Matt, this total is doing that, repairing the current lights, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And it's
Correct.
not
It'd be,
replacing.
it'd be less if we were just replacing them with generic street lights.
Correct.
Okay.
We could go a little less with that. Yep.
But you're looking at about 25,000, because I think for the security cameras, if you split it, you said it'd be like 12 to 15,000 for cameras, and then the balance of that would be
The
lights.
lighting, the
So-
electric run is going to be the expensive part. If we're trying to keep our lights where they are currently, yeah, it's a long electric run through both ends of the park.
We did, Is there, we discussed the replacing the equipment at Rotary Park. Is that not in here? That's like
I
a
can
future.
Yeah, so there's been an update on that, and actually, Matt, I'll let you address that if you want.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I can give you that. It's going to be in your informational packet on Monday night as well. We've run into a grant with the playground company that we're using for Macaulay Park to have the ability for basically half off. Or basically, we spend $100,000, they'll give $100,000 to a project. And we are saving $100,000 on Macaulay Park due to some partnership and sponsorship. And so that update Monday night would be, we're suggesting go ahead and do Rotary Park now, this year, in this year's budget, be able to pay for that now. It wouldn't go in until after the first of the year, but we could update the main playground structure in Rotary, have 2 new playgrounds, basically for what we've budgeted this year. Pretty exciting.
And so putting an investment into securing we also, what did we spend to repair the bathroom this year? Didn't we, or was that last year?
Repairs, well, last year we did toilets and RFP and sinks and everything. What was that? No, it was like 20,000. The toilets are not cheap because we did both
Spending a lot of money
Rotary and
repairing
Macaulay.
stuff
So
that
it'd
gets
be,
broken.
it'd be 10 to 11,000 at Rotary specifically. And so, yeah, some security there would be
I'd pay
great.
for the cameras.
Since then, we've repainted the bathrooms twice. So we've had to repaint the bathrooms twice since then, just due to vandalism. And then one of the toilets is through litigation at the moment, as someone ruined that one. So we caught them. Good job, PD. We caught that one, and so hopefully we'll see some restitution on that at some point.
Yeah, and just for clarification, I went ahead and made that decision to do that this year because there is a deadline to get that playground equipment ordered. And it was it fell under the CIP we already had in place, so that won't be coming necessarily to council for approval. We didn't need to, since it's already budgeted and approved by council, we're just moving it to a different park. So like Matt said, there will be a letter in Monday night's packet that just explains that. So that will be done. So you'll see, Mayor, that was not in next year's budget, it's this year's.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we get $100,000 worth of, or $200,000 worth of brand-new playground equipment, be probably good to invest in protecting.
Kind of. Just remember there's installation and demos as a part of that money. So you'll be looking at something around $100,000 worth of equipment and about $100,000 worth of install and everything, shipment and freight and all that fun stuff.
Those bathrooms have doors on them, right?
They do, yes.
Are they locked up at night, or are they just open all the time?
They are not. They are open all the time.
Is there a reason that we don't lock them at night? Or
The
they,
staffing.
The staffing and ability to lock them at night.
they're what?
The staffing and the ability to get staffing there to lock them every night, open them every morning, has been our holdup on that.
Okay.
We thought about asking for a volunteer.
You're volunteering?
Timers like on the front of City Hall?
Yeah, or, yeah.
The timers and things like that are great. However, it just takes one rock or one wood chip, one stick to hold the door open, and it's open.
Right, true.
And so those aren't necessarily the best ways to go with that, where it works in a building in which you're kind of helping secure that way to make sure that's not happening. But we would get back into staffing, the doors didn't trip, so someone would have to get out there to fix that, or it would be left overnight anyways. Probably not our best recommendation to do it that way.
I just know there's a lot of people that walk in that neighborhood early in the morning and in the evening.
We could ask the fire department to do it when they get their new fire station right there.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
might-
surely
they need some-
someone
they
would
need some
volunteer.
tasks.
I'm just thinking that's a lot of money in repairs to not lock a door.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So,
What time does the park technically open and close?
Technically, I don't know that there's really anything on the books that would suggest any specific time at this point.
We still have a 10 o'clock
Correct me
curfew.
if I'm wrong. I think we talked about that, Nick, not long ago. I don't think that there is a specific
There
time.
used to be several years ago, but I think that was done away with a while back. Maybe don't hold me to that, maybe during the codification, I can't remember, but there used to be at 11 o'clock years ago, but I don't think that's in place any longer.
I'd love to update that and get that on the books.
Okay, let's move on to the next thing, Drew. All these things are already included. planning development.
It seems like this value can be significantly lower, right? It could possibly be 15 grand, not 150?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
If we were to use
couldn't quite hear.
SEMCOG, this would be 15 grand.
It would be 15 to 20 if I had to,
Okay.
if I had to guess. Without calling them, I would need to call them again, but it would be around that. I think it's what it was last time.
Yeah.
And then, Mayor, if I, and council, if I could, the Stormwater Project, the Cherry Street Stormwater Project is an ongoing project. And I know that either Jeff or Doug or someone would be happy, or Travis would be happy to talk more about that project. But if that is something that council wanted to consider still doing there, this year, there's a couple of options. We can utilize those funds that we've been talking about, that we currently have, but we also have ARPA funds available as well, that we've said we're going to spend on infrastructure. So that is an option as well. We got, there's a slide in there, 3.9 million, I think, or something left in
Yeah,
ARPA funds.
You looked at your ending balance in the ARPA line, 3926,800.
Yep. So that is a possibility, if council were to elect to fund that project out of ARPA funds as well. I just want to make sure you knew all your options. But, and I don't know if Jeff or Doug or someone would want to talk a little more about that project and where we're at, or whoever.
And that 650 is just the culvert part of it, right?
Yes,
Going
to-
under the road.
Yeah, to date, we have gone from Rice Street to just south of Cherry Street, with larger pipe being added, new boxes for more intake of the stormwater. Eventually, this project would go all the way to North Street, where the runoff from the junior high, and then both east and west of the junior high, where that all collects. It is our intent to capture that before it gets to flood people's homes and cause damage that way.
Does that area pretty much flood every year now?
During very heavy rains, there are times, the last couple of years haven't been as bad, but there are instances where people's homes do get water in them.
Mayor, council, just wanted to,
You touched your mic.
we were talking about park hours. 18.1 does designate the park hours as opening at 6 a.m. and closing at 11 p.m.
11 p.m.?
11 p.m.
Don't touch it.
Stop touching your mic.
It made Drew go all the way back to the very first slide, so don't worry about it, Drew. But the income coming to town sign, I think we talked about, because the school had proposed that they would split the cost of that with us. Is that kind of how that was proposed?
I know that was discussed. There's not been any type of formal agreement or anything to this point. That was discussed as a possibility. And that number is a really, quite honestly, just a huge estimate, because I wasn't able to get the sign company out in time to give us a better estimate, but, so that's just what we anticipate that costing.
The thought process on that is it would be a good tool for the city to advertise anything that we have going on, anything at the parks, and the school would also be able to use it for, the ATOS Center and different events that they have going on as well. It could benefit both of us and also be good for, it could be a good economic development tool as well. But, those things can be as big as you want them to be, or or as small as you want, but.
So would that be totally replacing that sign with something bigger?
Yes,
In a
we
different
would
spot or the
completely.
same place?
Yes, we would completely do away with the current sign. It's aged and outdated.
I don't think it's actually working at all anymore.
No.
No, I don't think it does either.
Yeah.
It's been a while
software is
since I've seen
obsolete.
something go across it, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current agreement is, I think we're responsible for maintenance, Chamber's responsible for the message, but it's just, it's old, and it just doesn't work anymore.
Would it be in the same place?
That I don't know, I can't answer that yet. We're gonna have to go back and look at our lease agreement for that little piece of property, but regardless, it would still be on the north part of town off of 160 somewhere.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm all for relocation, just so you know.
Okay, you ready? I got a proposal, so we'll
Ready?
see what everybody thinks here. So what would our percentage be if we did a 1.5% merit? Which would be half our normal, but better than zero. And then spend somewhere around a quarter of the unrestricted reserves, which would be around 500 to 600,000 to fund the lights and security, I think, and the comprehensive plan. Those are the top two on my list.
But I think
The
that
lights
one-
and security at the park and then the comprehensive plan.
Right.
But we may save a lot of money on the comprehensive plan.
All right, fair enough,
Possibly.
thanks.
Yes, yes.
Lights and security, how much? The whole thing, the 41,000?
Yep. And the comprehensive plan may be reduced. And the Rotary Pavilion, because we've been promising that for at least 5 years now, in one way or another. And then either the sign or the range and put the other one on contingency.
I would probably go with the range, just because we committed to do the range the way it should be done. And I think without that building, I wouldn't even consider it half. Because you're taking out the classroom part of the training and the toilet. The porta potty is hidden in the woods, kind of, or in just weeds. It's not now.
That's a wastewater.
Call this project outhouse.
What do you want me to put in for the comprehensive plan?
I'll leave that.
Hey,
for Miles.
I would like to figure, I don't know if you want to call it worst-case scenario, but I would like to figure the 150 for the comp plan until I'm able to visit with SimCog and see a finished product. Otherwise, we could budget the lower amount, but I may end up coming back to council if we go a different direction.
Yeah, we kind of had the same issue with the downtown comprehensive plan where we tried to do it in-house to save
Correct.
money and it just
And
didn't work.
it just didn't work out.
Didn't
Yep.
turn out to be useful at all, and then, so,
Correct. And my understanding is the other cities that have used some of these vendors are very, very pleased with that. And there is a possibility that we might be able to actually roll and Cindy and I have talked about this possibility of actually rolling the comp plan in with the downtown master plan and utilizing one company to do both, because there's been some other communities that did that and found a savings. So that's a possibility as well, that we would definitely, obviously, look into. Yep.
So what was the answer? Leave it at 150? Okay. Okay, so that's done.
West Plains recently contracted with Olson
Mine did.
for a comp plan, and when they went out for a bid, they came back and chose Olson, and they started their comp plan in September. It'll finish next year, and their cost was $135. That's why we estimated at 150, because of the different costs.
Can you say that cost again?
135.
It was $135,000 for West Plains to do their comp plan.
it popped. The squirrels.
Yeah, the squirrels ran through the ceiling when you said that. Big-
Right as you said the total, the roof popped.
Would you go over that list again to make sure I got it all? You said the lights and
1 point.
security,
Lights and security, Rotary Pavilion,
Rotary Pavilion, okay, hold on,
the range building, and the comp plan.
range building.
How much was the pavilion?
40.
40. That's what I thought.
So that would be right around 600,000. Yeah. Close. Close. Couldn't fit any other, there's no other way to Tetris that into a single thing.
606.
And then the Cherry Street project, I mean, that's kind of what the ARPA funds are for, so if we decide we want to do that, we could wait a year and then try to pick it up the next year, or we could just see if costs go down, or we could just fund it for next year.
Yeah.
So we've been, I don't know, this is year 3, right, Jeff, of the Cherry Street?
Yeah, this is we're still in the first year of construction this year, so it would be the second phase.
Okay.
And then also, Mayor, Council, on the digital message board here at City Hall, if we elect not to do that, I would suggest we at least look at repairing or fixing what we have with something similar to it, at least so we can fix the leaks, and the plexiglass is getting hard to see through, it's scratched up. So I would recommend we at least consider, if we don't want to do the digital, we can do a lower amount and try to get that repaired or fixed.
I was gonna say, if we save some money on the comprehensive plan, that we use it towards that sign, and then also maybe the Christmas lights.
Those seem like niceties when we can't hire new police, we don't have enough money to hire new police officers.
I understand that too.
Protect and secure what we currently have,
Yep.
repair it.
Christmas lights will just get stolen.
Christmas lights will just,
See what
Cindy would just steal all the penguins and take them over to her house anyway, so.
Since we brought up Christmas lights, what kind are you talking about, other than what we already have over there, like the tree and all that stuff?
It would be continuing to build new sets or purchase new sets like we've done the last couple of years, with the big tree being our first, and then we've got several new elements that you'll see this year that we purchased with this year's budget.
And just for some background for the new council members, the overall plan, I can't talk this evening, the overall plan was to eventually have a drive-through display for our public to be able to enjoy. So we've started purchasing every year. We've started spending money every year to buy additional elements until we're able to put together enough to do a drive-through display. But there'll also be partners with local businesses and sponsorships and that kind of thing. But that's the direction we're headed over the next few years. But again, if we're going to cut something, that would be something I would probably suggest cutting.
You ready for the
What you got?
total? 1,545,864 is what that leaves in the, Drew, if you,
Changes the lowest right box in blue.
And that was with the 1.5%.
if you could give me the
merit.
code, Lori's isn't working, so I can just show my screen but I need the code.
It's gonna be like,
You take 606 off of that, that's like you take 606 off of that, it's like 1.5, so I mean, that's the merit increase in there.
I want to show my screen instead of hers.
Is that merit?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go. 2,000. Hey, there it is.
Oh, very cool.
Can I make that bigger?
And so the 1%, or the 1.5 merit changed it to 98.77 instead of 98.42.
Where's it at?
What would it be at the 3%? Is that,
3% merit?
just so we see what, the impact?
That's fine, I can do it. That's with the 3%. It's kind of small.
See, my only concern with that is that we are only projecting 4% additional revenue for next year. And so when 2024 budget comes around, we end up with not enough money to pay all the people at their current rate plus whatever the COLA that year is. So this is already 10, that'd be 10.2%, right? Total?
8.7 plus 3.
Yeah. 8.7 plus 1.5 would be 10.2
Oh, yeah.
already, so. But,
We change it back to 1.5.
not that I don't love y'all. Keep your jobs in 2024 and 2025, right?
That's back at 1.5.
Everybody's thinking they got their calculators out. Me too.
And that also includes all the extra things that we're gonna fund, or is that gonna come from a different?
No, that includes that, yeah. So, yeah, it's about $50,000 in additional expense for the merits, or 40,000, 50,000 for that, and then about 500,000 additional capital. Everybody okay with that concept? Any changes? What do you think about the Cherry Street?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the ARPA and do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree with it, Aaron, on that. I think we need to
Because
get that
people
going.
waited a long
Okay.
time to get that done.
And Cherry Street
Put Cherry Street
via
in
ARPA,
there.
via ARPA funds.
Okay, give me a second.
All right, need more direction for general fund?
Just, I know it's a small thing, but the message sign, would you want me to do digital or replace the current one? Because if I replace the current one, it'll be under operations, and it'll be probably under the CIP amount.
I think do that.
So I just want to make sure with direction.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll work on that. Thank you.
Push that. All right, while Jennifer finishes that up, we'll take a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back with the next set.
Okay.
And then, Mayor, Council, if, just as for a reminder for staff and council, when you speak, if you could speak a little closer to the mic, I think everyone's having a hard time hearing, so that might help if everybody could do that.
Okay.
Got a little echo.
Change to the speaker really helped, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to
Well,
whatever
I
the
guess
gray section's called.
We're still, yeah, well, we're still in the general fund, but just, these are, we have to pay for these things, so there's no choice. Just debt and lease payments. The police department car lease payment is $459,600, and then the bond payments on the public building totals $294,50. That debt matures in August of 2026, so we're getting close. And then just the transfers out is a small amount for central garage and utility billing, general funds. I wanted to kind of talk about the restricted reserves. That's the column that's right before the final blue block. Just so you'll know what that number is made up of. So we've got the parks savings ending balance of $638,582. And then we have the pool, building, and fitness center reserve account, ending balance being $425,402, and we are suggesting to use $229,900 for aquatics, capital and repairs, and $25,300 for fitness center equipment. And then the economic development ending balance being $607,534, using $120,000 for the admin CIPs of wayfinding signs and downtown design. So that also includes our operating reserve. Our threshold for the general fund is 30% of operations. So that makes the ending balance $3,569,236. So that is a very, very healthy balance to have for operating reserves in case an emergency happens. In the impact fee line, the park's ending balance of impact fees is $841,597. We are budgeting $114,000 in and $60,000 out. $55,548 is required for us to spend. On impact fees, they must be spent within 7 years, or you have to give them back. We don't ever want to give them back. So the amount that's required to be spent next year is $55,548. The police ending balance is $67,487. That includes $46,000 in and $80,000 out. So the ending balance in impact fees is $909,000. And then we have some escrow funds. When developers come in lieu of detention basins and things like that, they have to put money down, and so we have hold that in escrow. We can't touch that money, but that's the ending balance. That's why it's restricted. So total restricted reserves is $6,227,595. Okay, so the conclusion is wrong now because we changed all that. But we still do have a structurally balanced budget. The ending unrestricted cash balance is $895,864. And the operations as percentage of revenues is 98.77 with the changes that you just suggested. So we're still within our goal.
I thought it was, I didn't think the unrestricted should be that low. Did you put the ARPA funds, the transfer in of the ARPA funds in?
Oh, you wanted the ARPA funds for the stormwater?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that part.
Okay, yes,
No.
okay.
So
Makes me
that's
feel better.
going to be better then?
Yes. I didn't want to be under $1 million. That was going to be scaring me.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, moving on to the next block, the special revenue funds, streets and ARPA. Again, the same categories. In streets revenue, we used the same percentage increase for sales tax. So it's an increase of $35,000. In grant funding, we have STP funds in the amount of $4,181,300. Does somebody maybe want to explain what STP funds are for the newer members? Anyone? Bueller?
Travis? Oh, well. Jeff or Travis, either one.
Here we go. Our STP funds are our federal allotment that we get through and are transferred through the Ozarks Transportation Organization. Whenever you hear us bring those projects where we bring program agreements from our cooperative work with MoDOT and the Ozarks Transportation, that's our federal allotment of the federal fuel tax. Because we are an MPO, which is a metropolitan planning area, all of our federal distribution of our gas tax has to be funneled through the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which in our case is the Ozarks Transportation Organization. As an organization, the group of 6 communities and 2 counties, we made a decision back in the early 2000s to do an equal distribution of our federal allotment based on population. So based on our population at the last census, we get a percentage of those funds that are given to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and those funds are able to be distributed to local projects that fall on the federal highway system. So those are the projects you hear. We've talked about Truman, we've talked about the North Main Street project, the North Street design, and then the South Main Street project from Highway 14 north to North Street. Those are all funded through STP. And our 80% that we can use through the federal allotment, let me back up, all those projects have to be split on an 80-20 percentage. 20% local funds have to be matched to 80% of those federal funds. So that $4,181,300 represents that 80% funding that we will get back through our federal fuel tax monies. However, it's a reimbursement program, so those funds have to be spent 100% up front through the local funds, and then we get a distribution of 80% back as a reimbursement. So that's where Jennifer has to show it as expense and as grant revenue. Yes, and 80-20 is the max. Clear as mud, or?
Yeah, pretty complicated.
So those funds in, is that the 80% on those grant funds? That amount there?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll expend 20% more than that and then get 80% back.
Right.
And then Central Garage Department is housed within the street fund, and so we get a transfer in from all the other departments to pay for their portion of the central garage. So that's what that is. So revenues are increasing in the street fund 14.8%, mostly due to the increase in the grant revenue from last year's budget. So total street fund revenue is $7,115,136. Okay, so personnel in streets, cost of living adjustment 8.7, 1.5% merit. No personnel additions were requested for streets. In 2022, the personnel budget was $983,039. In 23, it's $104,632. Of course, that increase is going to be greater because of the merit that you just added, so. Operating expense budgeted at $1,345,714 for an increase of 27.5%. We have quite a few carryover projects. As you are aware, we've had issues with supply chain and delivery and lead times and just different things like that. So you're going to see a lot of carryover projects. These are the carryover projects, meaning they were budgeted in previous years but were not complete, and so we have to carry them over to the next year. So you can take a look at those. And I would say if you have any questions for staff, now would be the time to ask about those.
So what's the big increase in the operating expenses, Jeff? It's 25%, so there must be, we putting more into mill and overlay? We doing something else? I don't know.
In addition to the salaries, that would be the big ticket piece that makes a lot of that 25% or 27%.
Well, that 25% wasn't including the salaries, because salaries is a different line.
Well,
So it's $200,000 in something.
right.
There was an increase in a couple different line items in the operating budget. The mill and overlay project is one. Those costs this year alone were close to 30% higher than years past.
We added, if I can interrupt, Jeff, we added 80,000 to do, it's time to update our street master plan. That's in the professional fees. That was the other big ticket that I was trying to think of.
That makes sense. Can we spread out all the master plans so they all don't come in one year?
Yeah.
So when you say these carryover projects, so that's money that we budgeted this year that's not getting spent, so that money will carry over as well and still fund these projects?
Right, it's accounted for in that beginning column.
Okay.
But for budgetary purposes, we have to start over. Like,
Understand.
if the money's not spent this year, it has to be budgeted for next year. There is no rollover per se. It's just all within that beginning balance of unexpended funds. Okay, here are some new projects, or the new projects that are in the budget. Anyone has any questions about those?
That's the Main Street's a design, right? Not a, okay, not in control. Yeah. That's cool. I don't think so.
Yeah, and that is an STP eligible project, Mayor.
There's also one shared project. They're expanding the restrooms at 1111 Catherine Street, which is the Public Works building where streets and electric is housed. And so the total project cost is $175,000, and so they'll split that with electric. So the streets portion is $87,500. So the total capital budget for the streets fund is $6,513,854. And last year's was pretty close to the same. The debt service, not debt service, but lease payment for fleet for streets is $50,000. And then the restricted reserve sources and balance uses and balances for streets, their operating reserve threshold is 25%. So the ending balance there is $597,962. And then we also have escrow funds for future street projects that developers have to pay. So that the balance of those is $393,020. So the total restricted reserves for streets is $990,982. So the conclusion for the streets fund is that we have a structurally balanced budget with a cash balance of $798,749. And our operations ratio is 33.62%. I think they get the prize for the lowest.
You'll get my necklace, Jeff.
They get to wear the gold necklace. Any questions about the street budget?
Any questions?
Okay, the next special revenue fund is ARPA fund. Budgeting interest income fairly conservatively. I don't know what interest rates are going to do. Our interest is based on 80% of a 91-day T-bill. So as the market fluctuates, our interest rate fluctuates in our bank balances. So right now it's paying fairly good compared to what it was this time last year. But I just sort of estimated 2%. Could be higher, could be lower. Budgeted transfers out, we need to add $650,000 to that. Or take away $650,000 from that ending balance, but that's what's left in ARPA. Oops. Any questions on any of that? Okay, we'll move on down to the other block, which is the enterprise funds, electric, water, and wastewater. In revenues for electric, we are budgeting $18,267,467, which sales make up the most of that. And in water, same thing, sales and then transfers in for utility billing. The utility billing department is housed in the water fund, so the other funds transfer into that for their share. And then in wastewater, it's $3,950,617, and sales also make up most of that. In personnel, the COLA is 8.7, and no additional personnel was requested in the electric department. So there you can see the comparison. It's an increase of $92,769. And water, one position was requested and is included in this budget. It's an assistant water quality superintendent, and that position will be split with wastewater. And so you can see an increase of $218,771 in the water budget.
So that's an additional position.
Additional headcount.
And so they would, if they promoted someone from within, they would fill their position with someone else. So it'd be a total add-on.
I don't know what the plan is, yeah.
Net one person, okay.
Okay. In wastewater, no additional personnel requests were made for wastewater. The personnel budget in 2022 is $913,929. And in 2023 is $1,062,127. That's an increase of $148,000. Now we move on to operations. 2.03% increase in operation expense in the electric department. An 8.7% increase in water. And a 16.14% increase in operations in wastewater. Okay, there's the list of carryover projects, capital projects for electric. So I'll give you a minute to look that over.
I love master plans.
I think we need to have a master plan on when to do our master plans.
Yes. Can we get a bulk rate here?
That one's actually a little bit different in that we have we just finished up a master plan last year. Our regular master plan. Maybe it was, well, early last year. This plan is similar to what we did in wastewater, where we went outside of our area, out into that tier 1 area to start looking at planning out there. So as we start to grow, we can kind of build towards that. So this, again, will be similar to what we did in the wastewater, where we looked at areas to the west and to the south, areas that for future growth that's coming, so we can kind of make plans. A lot of times what we build inside needs to extend on out, and so we need to make sure we're building that strong enough to carry a lot of that load outside. So it's a little bit different in that it's an addition to just the standard master plan of what we're doing internally or what we already have going on.
So does your current master plan tell you, like, what your subs are loaded at?
Yes, sir.
So you're looking at which subs can handle what load is what you're looking for?
that's a portion of it. Yeah, it sure is.
Okay.
The master plan that we have, it lays out some of those areas that are, in other words, they're right within our corporate boundaries or areas inside that aren't developed yet. We already realize that we're going to need another substation, in the not too distant future. Where this one will go will be on beyond that. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see our tiered map that shows our circle of influence outside of the city limits. We've got some of that. And so actually, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at those areas that may develop 20 years from now.
Gotcha.
So.
Do we know, going back to that, are we on pace with our plan for when we did the last rate updates, our rate, because we're down $3.4 million in the electric department. That's pretty much all capital projects, but we're still eating into our reserves. Are we on plan for how much we had planned to eat into our reserves, I guess is the question I'm asking.
I'm going to say no because the cost of materials has gone up so much. And that's the one thing that's really eaten into it, Mayor. And then the lead times. You've approved some budget amendments for materials that we have on order that we're not even going to see until next year, and maybe even late next year before we even get that material in. And some of that material is much more expensive. Where we used to spend, $2,000 for a transformer, they're now $9,000. Or we used to pay, $1.50 for conduit, and it's now $9 a foot. So it's those types of items that have really taken a big bite out of the operations, really in all three of the enterprises. And so back to your question, no, we're not where we thought we would be because we didn't anticipate the level of increase that we're seeing in materials. So, but I think it's still too early for us to, at least for me, to start thinking about coming back to council and letting you know that we're upside down. I think we can, we still need some time. We're doing very well in savings. We've had a really good summer this year with the hedging that we did on the market. After we had that February issue, we went out and did some additional hedging. That's proved out to be very good for us. I know in the last quarter alone, it was over $750,000. So it's been a big help to have that. I don't know what the next hedging is going to be. Gas prices are pretty high right now, so we've just been kind of holding tight on going out and doing some of that for next year. But
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to the new projects that are in the budget. Somebody want to explain the tree farm?
the tree farm, we do certain reimbursements for trees or replace trees with customers. A lot of times where we'll be doing some trimming for overhead lines. We have a program where we can get with the homeowner, and if they're agreeable, we'll take the tree completely down, so we don't have to go back and worry about that tree again. And what we'll do is we'll offer them vouchers for new trees, and we have a list of certain trees that can be, within that right-of-way area or so far back from it, we don't have to worry about them growing up. What the tree farm would do is we're going to take the portion of the property out on Norton Road that's south of the dog park, and we're going to buy small trees and start growing up our own trees to be able to continue that program, as well as program for trees in the parks and wherever else we might want to put trees. This is an initial part of that. Once we get it established, we're probably just talking about a few $1,000s a year in replenishment trees. So we'll keep a rotation of trees coming through. But the 40,000 is a little, I don't, yeah, I do have my sheet. Yeah, the 40,000, the big piece of that is some fencing, some irrigation, a different auger type for our skid steer. So that's what's included in that 40.
I'm assuming you're using the trees just for a PR thing. I'm assuming your easement's all pretty solid. Just,
I didn't hear you
I'm assuming that
completely.
you're using the trees just for a PR thing.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, it is. And there, like I said, we could go back and just keep trimming, so far back from, 10 feet back from the conductors. But if we can work with a property owner, and some of them will just take down and people don't care that they have a tree voucher or anything like that. But a lot of times, that's the one thing that triggers somebody to allow us to go ahead and do that. And if we can, and we've been very successful in that, especially in some hard-to-get-to areas where there's, fences everywhere and you can't get in there, you have to climb it. So, and I don't know, what do we budget? Usually around 1,500 a year for that? It's, well, that may be. So, but I know we don't use them all the time either, so. But yeah, it probably is. I guess you could call it, it's more of a relations with customers than anything else. Because we do have the right to trim them, as you well know, but we want to, get along with the customers too.
And then, as Doug mentioned, this is a great opportunity, too, for us to continue to grow our own trees within our parks departments, our municipal buildings, and that type of thing. So other cities have done this program. It's been very successful. So it's something that we've been talking about and looking at for a little while. But then, again, it was something we would like to consider doing this year.
And Doug and I actually had a really good conversation. He had a great idea of eventually expanding this into having our own greenhouse to be able to grow plants and stuff that can be used at the parks. And we can probably get, community involvement or work with the schools or some for different programs to have them actually take care of them, so we wouldn't have to necessarily hire additional staff to work those or work the greenhouse.
Any other questions on the capital projects? Okay. Total capital budget for the electric fund is $3,660,000. Last year's capital was $5,667,869, or this year. I'm already in 2023. Okay, in the water department, those are the carryover projects.
And Jason, Doug, maybe it might be a good opportunity to explain to council the success we've had with the bulk fill station that we have. Yep.
Yeah, we got our first bulk water station online this year, which allows us to have one centralized location to sell our bulk water sales versus having multiple meters out on our system with contractors. It has been a great success. We've got that online, and the one thing that they have asked for is that we have a second location. The first location is down by the dog park on the south side of town. So we looked for a location on the north side of town. The most natural fit for it was on the new site that we are getting ready to purchase as part of the RDE system on Ashley Drive, which is that little industrial area just to the north of Walmart. There is an existing well and ground storage tank that we'll be acquiring as part of the RDE So that is the best location that we found on the north side of town for our second bulk station. But obviously, we're having to carry that over because we can't start to make that improvement until we actually own the property, which we're looking to do in a couple weeks. So from there, we'll be able to start working towards getting that second station online.
These are the new projects. Again, there's another shared project at 1010, which is the building that houses water and wastewater. As you can see that.
Some expensive bathrooms.
I know, those are some nice bathrooms.
You've seen both locations, you're seeing some restroom expansions. Those are in two parts. One, because we've outgrown our facilities over the years. We've gotten by fine, but we need to add some more facilities to be able to. But the main piece that's driving the restroom expansions is ADA compliance. Back to that study that we did, our restrooms aren't ADA compliant, and so we'll bring them into compliance as we expand them a little bit as well.
What is SCADA? SCADA.
Explain SCADA.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that, because there was a question about what SCADA is.
Explain SCADA, please.
Yes. It's a loaded question, explain SCADA. That is a complicated system to boil it all down, it's a monitoring system. For the water side, it's a monitoring system that would be on all of our wells and tower sites that sends data back to our central office at the water quality system. It keeps track of how the systems are operating, where we have troubles. It throws trouble codes that will send back to staff. So it'll save a lot of time on having to go out and physically check every well and every tower on a daily basis. It'll have 24-hour monitoring where the on-call person can receive messages whenever there is an issue with one of our well or tower sites. It's a complicated system, but I'm trying to boil it down as simple as possible. But the main word to remember is monitoring. It is a digital monitoring of our entire system. And you'll also see that on the wastewater side as well. And it's the same concept, just on the wastewater side. It keeps control of all of our lift station sites and then our treatment plant facility, and does 24-hour monitoring.
Does the electric department have SCADA also?
Yes, they do have.
Yeah. So so you guys know, from my past employer, we had a SCADA system, and it's hands down a benefit to keeping shorter outage times. It's a very good thing.
All right, any other questions?
Okay.
Long.
So the total capital budget for the water fund is $2,836,729. And there you can see this year's capital budget. Okay, in the wastewater fund, there are a few carryover projects. I will point out that this year's budget had the Oakmont lift station in it, and council, when they did this year's budget, had decided to use ARPA money for that. So probably should talk about whether you want to carry that forward or do something different with that.
No, we decided not to use ARPA.
Yes,
fund.
correct. We
Right,
decided not to. We originally talked about, council was going to use it, and then we decided to not and hold off and just hold the ARPA funds to look for matching opportunities. There was some discussion about potentially even bonding that project along with the other lift station to the south that we're looking at designing as well. I know that I don't know that I want to get into it tonight, but I know Doug and Travis has been doing a lot of redesign and working on that project quite a bit, and Doug just kind of caught me up on that this week. So I don't know how much you want to go into that, guys.
Yes, there's been a lot of design work done on the Oakmont. However, we've gotten to the point now to where we need to go out and visit with some property owners. When you're designing a sewer system, as you all know, or probably know, it utilizes gravity. And so since that's the lowest point of the system, the lift station, we need to secure the property where that would be so we can finish the design for the piping coming in and out of that. So in other words, we've got it designed for a specific piece of property. We need to go visit with that property owner and possibly buy that, so that way we can now design. If we went through all the design and then we went to the property owner and they wouldn't sell, or we couldn't obtain that for some reason, we'd have to move it and we'd have to redesign it all over again. So that's kind of where we're at right now. They've done a lot of the preliminary work as far as pumping capacities and all of those types of things. So anyway, that's where we are on that. Once we know where that piece of property is, we'll finish design within a couple of months, and then it will be to go and getting easement acquisitions, some acquisition of some easements that'll need to take place. We've also looked at the Kelby Creek lift station. What we've come to realize there is that one's a lot easier to do. The one thing that we found out with doing Kelby Creek, though, is without building a lot of force main, it would be better if we had another lift station design or laid out in that Southwest master plan that is just straight south of Oakmont. And what that was going to be was the one where Oakmont would just pump south to it, and then there was a new line all the way to the treatment plant. That allowed for us to spend a lot less on Kelby Creek because we just go up and tie into that line. So we've kind of slowed down looking at Kelby Creek because we need to focus on this one first. This is the one where we're hearing about potential growth that will come, and so we're working on a design for this one now, and it will go over and actually tie into another piece. We'll design it though to where in the future it will go south to another lift station, and that way we can pick up the Kelby Creek and all this stuff to the south. So. I know that's a lot in one shot, but.
That's right. And then, especially for the new council members, just so you know, the Oakmont lift station that we're talking about, whenever we look at the property to the west and kind of southwest, we're at capacity right now. So although we have potential developments that want to come, not just residential, but commercial as well, unfortunately, they just can't develop because we are at capacity. So this is a priority for us for future development in that direction. And again, there was discussion originally about using ARPA funds, then we decided to hold off for a while, and we also discussed at one point even financing both of them, or at least bonding them. So we have a lot of options there that we'd be happy to discuss.
Okay, and there you can see the new projects.
So if we're not going to do any upgrades to Kelby Creek, should we go ahead and start designing the next, when we get done with the Oakmont, should we go ahead and just start designing the next phase, the next one, whatever we call the one after that?
The one to the south, that would be my recommendation. We can make some small improvements to Kelby Creek and open some things up, just like we are right now. So, but to do a major one, we really need that other force main coming through there. So, excuse me, the one that would be south of Oakmont, if we could get started on some of that one, I think we'll be better off in the long run. It'll be money well spent to go that route.
Any questions? Okay. All right.
Total capital budget for the wastewater fund, $3.897 million. And there was this year's capital budget.
And then Jennifer, for clarification, that Oakmont, did those numbers include
That's
paying
included in
cash
there.
for that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Yep.
In the debt column for the enterprise funds, electric just has 26,000 in a vehicle lease payment. Water has 436,562 total. We have the last principal payment on the 2013 revenue refunding bonds, so it will be paid off next year. And then we have 265,000 first principal payment on our special obligation bonds for the RDE purchase that we just closed on. And then 131,000 in interest and fees for water. For wastewater, the total debt service payments will be 369.5. We also have another final payment on the SRF 2001 bonds, and that would be paid off. And then a $115,000 payment on the 2013 wastewater treatment plant COP refunding bonds. Those mature in June of 2025. And then 19.5 in interest and fees for that. In transfers out, electric is paying $2 million in transfers out, 394,000 of those being in admin fees, 63 in central garage, 763 in utility billing, and 875,000 in fee of lieu of taxes.
You want to explain for the new, or did you guys already go over what the admin fee includes and how that's calculated? Okay.
I'd be happy
Okay,
to do it
good.
again. Do you know about that, Sean? Do you want to? Okay. So admin fees are, because we have central employees that do things for the entire city, like finance, HR, legal, the enterprise funds have to pay their fair share of that. So every 2 years, we do a time study, and each employee in this building mainly calculates or keeps track of how much time they spend with each department, doing each department's work. And we take that calculation and apply it, and electric, water, wastewater, and street pay an admin fee because they don't have their own accounts payable department and things like that. So that's where that money comes from. Okay, and for water, you can see the breakdown there. And wastewater. Okay, so reserve balances. For the electric fund, the operating reserve threshold is 20%. So the ending restricted balance for electric is $3,187,060. In water, the operating reserve threshold is 25%. And so that ending restricted balance is $977,557. And in wastewater, we have the operating reserve threshold of 25%. And then we have a debt service reserve requirement for one of our bonds. So the total restricted balance in wastewater is $673,374. So the conclusion for the enterprise funds, we have an ending unrestricted cash balance of $10,164,703 in electric, $1,230,734 in water, and $1,661,812 in wastewater. And then our ratio, 87.23% for electric, 80.24% for water, and 61.66% for wastewater.
Does anyone remember why we have different reserves for the different
That's-
ones? I don't remember either. When we originally set all those up, I don't remember why I guess the idea is we wouldn't use as much electricity if the entire town got knocked out by a tornado. We wouldn't use as much electricity, so we. Right. Okay, makes sense.
I know it's higher in the general fund because the revenue source is more volatile.
Right.
So you want to have more for that, but I'm not sure why the difference in the enterprise funds.
I think Lake should just could be such a huge amount because it's all based on consumption of power, right? Okay.
Can I go back and ask a question about the SCADA systems just real quick? Sure. Just in terms of who's managing that infrastructure and making sure it's secure and not prone to any sort of disruptions or interruptions by the bad guys?
Well, we'll utilize, we'll, of course, work with our IT folks and the vendor on installations and those types of things. Day in and day out, our folks actually use it. We do have, those do all go through our servers. So, they're protected through our server themselves. We do have a device on our server that watches for outside things that are hitting our network and keeps track of those. And all of that data is pushed to PIT. So they monitor the cyber side of that, if that answers your question.
Who is they? I'm sorry, the IT?
Yeah, the PIT Technologies.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Maybe, probably wouldn't be a bad thing to get somebody from Pitt to come and just kind of give us an overview of all the stuff we have, all the things they do for us, and how they see all of that working. Is that
We'll get that scheduled.
something we can do? I also wanted to see if Matt could do his presentation of the power pyramid of parks revenue again at some point.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Absolutely.
that presentation.
I want Matt doing
So,
any kind of any. I don't know.
The parks are on a revenue recovery model, so if the fitness center makes money, rec sports breaks even or something close to that, and then the actual physical parks just cost money. And so he's got a whole model that kind of shows how that lays out and why some things are at different levels than others and why some things don't pay for themselves and some things do. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
we'll get it scheduled.
presentation.
That sounds like fun.
Yep.
Well, I know that was extremely exciting information for you, but that's the conclusion of the presentation. So, again, we're happy to answer any questions, or if you want to see some different scenarios or whatever you would like to do.
Anybody got any other questions or ideas? I think we have this on Monday's agenda as well, so you can give us like kind of an updated little sheet with the changes that we made tonight. And
I do have maybe a couple. Just curiosity as far as the upgrading or building lift stations towards the west. What do we, assuming everything works out, the property owner is good to go with that location, what are we looking at as far as a time frame? 18 months? I can read those.
18 months. And we're
Okay.
building some pad in there, because it's back to that right-of-way negotiation issue.
Yep.
If we got to a situation where we did that design and we got down to a holdout and we needed to do a condemnation, that could take a couple of months, a few months.
Yep.
So, we've got to have that built in there.
And for our newer guys, well, I think Matt and I have talked about this, but the importance of this is, the growth to the east side of town, the latest development that's actually in the city limits. There was, how many platted lots were there? It was close to 300, wasn't it?
the east side?
Yeah.
On
Cheyenne
Cheyenne Valley?
north.
Oh, yeah.
Not Cheyenne Valley, but north of that. That's right by the schools. Every lot in there except for 5 is Ozark schools. And so we're gone too far that way. Well, we've hit the limit that way. And there is a decent amount of interest for commercial development to the west and to the south. But not having the ability to service that, it's pretty important. So that's kind of the rush on this one, and because I actually do have people asking, what's the time frame? Because there's land for sale, and people want to be a part of Nixa. So just to kind of give you a little bit of backstory on
Thank you.
that.
Yeah, I think the system's large enough at this point that we can be a little more aggressive on planning build-outs because we paid off all the original things that we built for 40 years, 20 years ago. We've got those all things paid off, so we can, if we need to bond for additional construction, so we want to make sure we don't have an 18-month lag between when we got people that want to start construction on stuff and when we can support their
Yeah, we're in a much better position today to continue to plan for the future. And as I think everyone knows, that growth takes infrastructure. And that's why it's very important that we invest in water, wastewater, streets, electric, all of that, because that's where the growth comes from. So we will definitely be pushing a little, pretty hard that direction in the future.
I wanted to make one more comment, if you don't mind, based, following up with, behind Mr. Giddens on these lift stations. The ones that we're talking about, we're considering those are regional lift stations. So in other words, they encompass a large area of drainage, but they also collect from smaller localized lift stations. So in other words, just so you know, the one we're doing at Oakmont won't serve everything to the north, like at 14 and Nicholas or some of those areas by themselves, because there will still need to be, there are hills and valleys in those areas that can't even get to Oakmont. So there will be some little ones that will need to be built along the way. Those are typically developer driven, but they will pump down to these. So these are looked at as just large regional to be able to pick up those larger areas. There'll still be some others involved in the middle of that. So just so you're aware, I didn't want you to think there's just one and it's going to take care of all that. So.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions?
Other than, thank you guys.
Thanks for all the work, yes. We just get to sit here and listen and stare blindly.
Yeah.
All right, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll see you Monday. Oh, what?
First, I need those first and seconds again.
Second, first.
First, second.
Wake up, Becky.
All in favor.
And we're all in favor.